Okay, so I'm just getting ready to fit the outer primary chain case, and before I do that I'm just going to put the inspection cover back on here. This is the end of the cross shaft that goes through to enable left-hand gear change, and this is that knuckle sort of joint that we fitted with a little top hat bush on it in the fork. And so that when we let's see if I can move this so that when the gear change is moved, I can just move it briefly at the moment, then that then goes into moving the hopefully changing gear in the gearbox. So I've put some oil in here. It doesn't get that much oil, and it was absolutely bone dry in here before. I oiled it before I put it in. There's a needle roller bearing up there, and I'm just going to put some oil, because the oil does come up through this hole here from the gearbox, but because it had grease in before rather than oil, there was nothing coming up here. Okay, it doesn't need that much oil, but you know, it's just good. Then we've got the cover here, which is you've got 2 long bolts and 1 short one, and there you go. The long ones, 2 long ones on the right, and the short one on the left. I'm not bothering to put well seal on this one again because it's an inspection cover. It doesn't normally leak. If it does leak, you know, it's a sort of 2-minute job to take the cover off and put well seal on, but I've never had a problem with it up to now. I've never had a problem with one up to now. There we go, get his covers on. And there we are. Okay, so that's the inspection cover on, and now we'll put the primary chain case on the other side. Getting ready to fit the outer chain case cover. So the first thing I've done is to adjust the tensioner for the primary chain. I put it on as standard, you know, and I just loosely fitted the casing, and sure enough the primary chain tightened right up, as it says it might do when you're doing the fitting. Sorry, in the fitting instructions it says that. So what I've done is I then bent the blade. This blade is normally curved, so it's about there, it curves down. So I bent it straight and put the adjuster right in, and that's been enough. I've fitted that dry onto the engine, and the primary chain is just about nice and, you know, just about the right tension. In fact, what you might have to do, and I know other people have done it, is this is the T160 tensioner, which and even that's screwed fully as low as it will go, as loose it will go, because it's got this quite big head on. So you can change that for a T150 tensioner, and that hasn't got this big head on, so the whole blade comes lower. So that's one alternative. But on my case, just flattening the blade, screwing this in as low as it will go, then that's just enough to make the tension, you know, with no adjustment on it. It's just about the right tension now on the primary chain. So that's done. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fit the gear change foot. Okay, so this is the foot that the actual gear lever goes on, and that slots in here. I'll have to just mess about, because of course when it goes out it's going to go through down. Put the oil seal in. So I'm going to put that in, and I'll explain about that, because what I've done is I've already put this in once before I fitted the oil seal, which I've just done, and I put it in, and then I fitted the chain wheel loosely on here, just to check that the chain wheel was going to miss the foot, which it does. Okay, what you sometimes have to do, apparently, if there is occasionally this bush here sitting, and that's what this runs on. And if this bush is sitting up too high, then this sits up high and this foot can catch on the outside of the chain wheel. So it was okay in my case, but just to mention that you do have to check that clearance before you fit the chain wheel to the engine. Right, I've inserted the foot into the oil seal, which turned out to be more complicated than I thought, because of course I put some tape around the shaft. Then the shaft was too thick to go through the sort of bush. So then what I ended up doing eventually was taking the oil seal back out again, putting the shaft through, then putting some tape around the shaft, then sliding the oil seal over the tape back into the housing, because there's various grooves you see on here, and because the lip of the oil seal will catch on otherwise. So put some tape on, slid the whole oil seal back in, and then got rid of the tape. Then we've got a groove here. No, before that we've got the cover that goes over the top of the oil seal. Okay, little cover there. And then we have a groove here for the circlip. Now you need to check that the foot is pulled right out, and so there are these spacers here that can go on before the circlip if the foot isn't pulled right out. Otherwise the foot will slide in, and again it will catch on that chain wheel inside the casing. In our case there's no space there. So the circlip is now in the groove, and so the foot is held so it won't, there's no sideways place, so it won't go in. Oh, blimey. One thing after another. Oh, there's a cold call. It's alright, because the phone they can sort out cold calls, which is great. Right, yeah, so that's all. That foot is now all in place, and we're just about ready to put the casing on. Last thing I'm going to do is, when I find it, I'm going to put the that's called the ramp on. It just fits in there for the you can do it after you've got the casing on, but I'll just do it now. There we go. And that is the ramp that the mechanism goes on that pulls the pull rod. It doesn't work. It's not the greatest mechanism in the world. That's the trouble. It doesn't pull the pull rod out on the clutch very far, but that's what we've got to work with. Okay, time to fit the outer casing. I'm going to make sure I've got some oil on this on the bearing, this thrust bearing, on the shock absorber, because it doesn't get that much oil and it needs oil to start. And I'll put some oil on the face of the facing bearing, and also down, the camera's in the way, it would be so I don't know if you can see that. So I put oil on the facing bearing, I think you can see that, and also on the on that needle roller bearing inside. Okay, we've got the foot in place, and we've got the tensioner. Now the foot, we've now got to get this foot set, and you've got this hole here, and the setting for that is basically the top edge of the foot lines up with the center of that hole, which you can see from the outside of the casing. But obviously I just set it roughly in the right place. Gaskets on, yeah, whoops-a-daisy. Right, you see this for the tensioner, so you need to get that lined up first. There's a hole in the inner casing. Yeah, problem with the feet not wanting to engage. There. Yeah, that foot is now in the right place. That's why I won't go on the feet with the teeth of the feet weren't meshing. Okay. And great, yeah, so I'll just need to put the outer casing bolts in, and then that's about on, and just do a few checks of everything, but I'll get the casing bolts in first. There, and that's the outer casing now basically fitted. So only a couple of things to note. There's one very long screw, and that's this one that goes at the front, and then you've got three slightly weird screws, short screws. They go there. There's a strange head one there, but it's actually a long screw, and then another short, small one there. All the others are standard Allen keys. Oh, okay, so outer cover on, just got to put the clutch pull rod mechanism, the actuating mechanism for the clutch on, and yeah, that's all done. Yeah, good. And just to mention that if you want any more detailed information about what's on the videos, then there is the workshop manual that goes alongside the videos, and that covers restoring the whole bike, not just the engine, and that's available from all good booksellers around the world. You can just put my name, Chris Rook, into the search bar, like Amazon search bar or wherever, and it should come up.